Come on, Stephen, come on. Cheers. And welcome back to the only BBC you're ever going to need. It's the Blackford Book Club, with part 2 from my very first self-published book on Liverpool Football Club in May of this year, entitled Chasing the Impossible and a Sword of Damocles. And without further ado, on page 92 of your personalised copies, you will find a written recap of the 2021-2022 Carabao League Cup Final under the banner headline, Kid Kelleher the Cop Hero as Reds win the League Cup. Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0, Liverpool win 11-10 on penalties. It would be easy to jump ahead to the 21st penalty of a penalty shootout and Caoimhin Kelleher's coolly taken kick that put the Reds of Liverpool 11-10 ahead of their blue and bitter rivals from Chelsea. It would be equally easy to castigate Kepa Arrizabalaga, Chelsea's substitute goalkeeper and only introduced to the game in the final knockings of an absorbing and nerve-shredding final, and only because of his supposed ability and superiority at saving penalties. He wasn't sent on as a substitute to score a penalty, but here he was, after 21 consecutive penalties scored, that he now found himself having to score to keep his Chelsea team in the cup final. He blazed over Kelleher's crossbar, and as the red shirts descended upon the goalkeeper in jubilation, all I could see was the Irishman in the yellow goalkeeping jersey and a young man I called Kid all match long. The Kid, Liverpool's reserve goalkeeper behind the world's greatest goalkeeper Alisson Becker, that kid in the bright yellow goalkeeping jersey was the hero, and a hero at the end of an incredibly tense and nerve-shattering final that was heavily dominated by the Blues of Chelsea, but which swayed from side to side throughout before the Irishman, and a goalkeeper lest we forget, scored a brilliant penalty to ensure Chelsea saw the Blues of Wembley defeat. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Kelleher was the hero as early as the 6th minute, with a brilliant reaction save from the American international Christian Pulisic after a great three-man move involving Kai Havertz and Cesar Azpilicueta. The first half of this Wembley final could easily be dissected into 3 segments of 15 minutes as Chelsea bossed the opening 15 minutes with their 3 strikers all playing high, pressing the Liverpool defence, and Mateo Kovacic pulling the strings from midfield with some beautifully incisive forward passes. The next 15 minutes of the first half was bitty, scrappy and all Liverpool red. Sadio Mane had a glaring chance on 18 minutes he headed way wide before a quiet Mo Salah drove a promising free kick way wide too. Blimey. But the Reds were in the game now and took charge midway through the half, which culminated in a Naby Keita pass reaching Sadio Mane, whose first shot was brilliantly saved by Edouard Mendy in the Chelsea goal before he miraculously made a follow-up save when Mane must have thought he could only score. Mendy hadn't even got back to his feet before he tipped the rebounded shot over the bar. Liverpool were in the ascendancy, but back came Chelsea as the first half wore on, and they finished the half as strongly as they had begun it. Christian Pulisic was a standout for the Blues in the first half and forced a sharp save from Kelleher before his captain, Azpilicueta, fired high over the crossbar just before half-time. There was still time for yet another chance for Chelsea before the break, and a chance they'd rued come the end of the final. The impressive Pulisic was fouled on the edge of the penalty area, but with the referee playing on and the footballing advantage very much for Chelsea, the ball found the dangerous and effervescent Mason Mount, and he side-footed narrowly wide when he simply should have scored. The referee's whistle brought the half to an end, an absorbing 1-2, and one in which Chelsea had shaded the attacking intent and should have been leading rather than the 0-0 scoreline. As with the first half, Chelsea were mightily impressive in the first 15-minute period of the second, with Pulisic and Havertz a constant attacking threat, and their combination on 48 minutes should have resulted in a goal for the Blues, and a minute later Mason Mount would rue yet another chance from which he should have scored. Played through with only Kelleher to beat in the Liverpool goal, he somewhat scuffed a shot that hit the inside of the post and bounced to safety for the Reds. Mount followed up with another chance on 58 minutes, which brought another good save from Liverpool's Kelleher, and the only seemingly bright spot, and indeed spark, in the Reds team at this point in the game was Luis Diaz, whose energetic runs continued to stretch Chelsea all game long. Against the run of play, Mo Salah had perhaps the best chance of the final for Liverpool when one-on-one with Mendy on 64 minutes, but his chip over the advancing goalkeeper was limp and easily cleared off the line by the magnificent and probable man of the match performance from Chelsea's Brazilian defender, Thiago Silva. He was magnificent all afternoon, spraying passes from defence with ease, time and class he has in abundance, but he could do nothing about the first goal of the final on 68 minutes from Joel Matip, a scruffy, headed goal at the far post that put Liverpool into a precious 1-0 lead. Or had it? From a deft training ground routine, Trent Alexander-Arnold's free kick came to Sadio Mane at the far post, whose header back across the goal fell to Joel Matip, who simply couldn't miss. Amid the raw, loud screams of delight from behind the very goal that Matip had headed into came the groans as Virgil van Dijk was adjudged to have fouled during the initial free kick, and VAR, that doom-monger who simply won't be consigned to the sporting bin as it should be, disallowed a perfectly good and legitimate goal. In the middle of 90,000 spectators, a perfectly good goal happened before their very eyes and in real time. Now a VAR referee from hundreds of miles away disallows it whilst watching it on a TV monitor. How very first 21st century. VAR continues to be the death knell of that once beautiful game, and I would have said the same had it happened at the other end of Wembley. Alas. Matip's disallowed goal led to a final 15 minutes of Chelsea again dominated, as well as looking the fitter, stronger team. Liverpool's man of the match up to this point in the final was the impressive Luis Diaz, whose run and shot forced a fine save from Mendy in the Chelsea goal, before 2 minutes later an equally impressive Kai Havertz had the ball in the Liverpool net, but was rightly adjudged offside and the goal disallowed. No need for the dreaded VAR this time. Although Chelsea were the better team as the game inched towards extra time, the Reds still had an almighty scramble in the Chelsea penalty area when the ball could easily have found its way into the Blues' net, and Virgil van Dijk's towering header from a corner was palmed away brilliantly by Mendy to keep the scoreline at 0-0. Then, with almost the final kick of the final, Romelu Lukaku forced a great save from Kelleher at his near post, and thus the final ventured into an extra 30 minutes. With a tiring Diaz now joining his captain Henderson, Naby Keita and Sadio Mane on the substitutes bench, Liverpool really threatened in the extra time period and in all honesty were hanging on at times for the penalty shootout. James Milner brought energy as well as a lovely spat with Chelsea's Antonio Rudiger, but Harvey Elliott looked 2 yards off the pace, Diogo Jota looked at best half fit, and Divock Origi did very little. Chelsea had far more energy in goal than Liverpool in the final 30 minutes of outfield play, with both Lukaku and Havertz scoring, but both offsides and their goals rightly disallowed. This draining, nerve-wrenching final had, beyond all reasons of sane rationality, gone the distance at 0-0 and stepped forward the kid, and a hero in a yellow goalkeeping jersey. A ridiculously VAR-inspired disallowed goal, and the vampiric energy sucker that is the modern game, 3/3 of rightly disallowed goals in the field of play from the officials, towering performances from Virgil van Dijk and Thiago Silva, flashes of genius from Luis Diaz, Kai Havertz and Christian Pulisic, 21 consecutive successful penalties, a goalkeeping scorer of a penalty, a goalkeeping substitute who couldn't save a penalty and who couldn't score one either. When Mason Mount hit the post early in the second half, I had a feeling the name of Liverpool was being etched onto that beautiful three-handled trophy. They rode their luck towards the end of the regulation 90 minutes and hung on for a penalty shootout in extra time. But stepped forward Caoimhin Kelleher, the kid in the yellow goalkeeping jersey of Liverpool and the Irish understudy to the greatest goalkeeper in the world. Today it was the kid's turn, and he made an old man cry. Good on you, kid. Oh, there was a couple of stumbles in there, but I'm going to try and save it with a personal story. And the reason why I cried, because I did, and I've got no shame in admitting that, is because whenever my team, the mighty Reds of Liverpool, whenever they won a final, or a trophy of any description, the very second that the captain had lifted that beautiful trophy, my telephone would ring, and it would be my lovely, dear old mum. And she would say the same thing every time. Your team's won again, Stephen, congratulations. as though I was out there on the field taking part. And when Jordan Henderson did his lovely trophy dance, I was on my own, and I was incredibly happy, incredibly ecstatic, and I cried, and my phone didn't ring. Oh, that's a bit of a downer, isn't it? Oh, I've really bloomered this up. Anyway, if I haven't, if I've saved it, if you ever see this, I will leave you, as ever, in peace and in solidarity. Thanks for watching. Miss you, Mum. Thanks for watching. See you again.